Assalamu alaikum, it's Faisal here, and welcome to the second of the pre-program modules. So this is the final one before you can get started with the program, inshallah. So let's get started. Understanding the who, the what, and the why. So that's what it's all about today. It's just giving a bit more context about who behind the program, i.e. me. So what the program is, or what the vision is, and then the why behind it all. So here's what we're going to cover. Who is Faisal Amjad? My own purpose story, beginning with the end in mind, and the power of why. So let's get started. So who is Faisal Amjad? So before you can take anything from me or this program, you need to obviously get to know me. Why should you listen to me? What's my credibility or credentials? So context is very, very important, as you know. And throughout the program, what I'll be doing is I'll be giving you different little anecdotes and little examples from my own life, especially when it comes to filling out the worksheets. Because when you've got an example to work from, you think, oh, actually, yeah, it was this for Fessel, I can use that as an example for myself, etc. So that's why understanding the whole journey, start to finish, actually then starts to make sense. Because think about it in what does that mean for your own life or for your own story. So who am I and why can I help you? So a quick overview. Based in Nottingham in the UK, born and bred here. Married with 3 children. I've got 2 companies. One's called No and one's called Muslim CEO. So I'll go into my story now. So my own purpose journey. So purpose is something that I've come to realize I've been longing for my entire life. So at school, obviously, you don't really think too deeply about it. You just think it's going to be your job. And school doesn't really teach you about it. So you just think, okay, whatever my job is, that's kind of what it is. But they don't really teach you about it in mosque, really, when I think about it. Often they teach you, okay, how to read the Quran, how to pray, how to do rituals, etc. But what's the greater kind of purpose behind it? So sometimes we get bogged down in the micro, right? And not necessarily the big picture. And I've come to learn, especially about myself, even when I was in the corporate world, and I always need to understand the why behind something before for me to feel motivated to actually do it. And without it, so if you don't have a sense of purpose, you end up living life on cruise control. That was definitely the case for me. And another thing I found is that when you going with the flow, that's the surest sign that you've got no idea about your purpose. So going with the flow, being steered, going in whatever direction you're steered in, is kind of a telltale sign. So a bit about my kind of fitra or my nature. So looking back, since childhood, there's been a couple of patterns and trends and stuff that that I can notice. One constant has been I've always had this love for writing and a love for reading and for learning new things. As a child, I was always the hugest Roald Dahl fan, and because of him, when I was younger, like just 12, 13, 14, I always wanted to be a children's author, right? And then when I was slightly older, 16, 17, I wanted to be a journalist. So you can see this kind of trend has always been around, writing and using that ability. I always read loads as well, so I would always go to, my mom would take me to the library like once a week, and we would get out books, and I'd read them within the first day or two, and then reread them and stuff. Um, and alhamdulillah, I was always quite an intelligent kid, straight A student. In my early years, well, there's one interesting story actually. So I was always a straight A student. I think when we did SATs for the first time. I remember getting the highest in the entire school. And then again, year 7, year 8, year 9, again, more of the same. Like straight A's, a couple of B's and stuff. Um, and then what happened was that at one point in year 9, we went to Pakistan for like 6 weeks. Came back, and there was an exam the very first day I was due back. So the teacher said to me, "Look, don't worry about it. Just do the exam. We don't expect you to like score very highly because you haven't studied any of this stuff. This is all like brand new stuff that we taught while you were away." So anyway, I did it, and I got something like 91, 92%. I got the highest in the class, and they were shocked. They were like, how did?" And so obviously, yeah, I was like praised and all this kind of stuff. But that moment actually was, instead of it being a really good moment in my life. I actually look back at the moment and I realized that was the beginning of a bit of decline, because that moment I kind of started to believe my own hype. Oh, I'm naturally talented. I don't need to work. I don't need to study hard. And so I started, like, cruise controlling a little bit more. I started being more talkative and being more disruptive, etc. So like when it came to like year 10, year 11, I didn't really sort of, you can say, fulfill my potential in terms of me getting those straight A's. I didn't really get that. I still got good grades, but they weren't great grades as originally expected. But yeah, so that interesting sidebar is relevant, as you come to see. Now, we then it got to the point where I need to decide my options for university, and obviously, as I mentioned, I wanted to do journalism. So uh, and even the A levels picked were centered around that. So I did media studies, I did English, history, I did business studies. So all of these things were centered around, okay, you know what, that kind of career. What was interesting was, even in media studies, I had a project that I did called Media and the Muslims, and I remember it started when the term started, and so it the it was basically looking at how does the media uh, showcase Muslims and demonstrate them and stuff. 9/11 happened right in the middle of it, so it was really interesting because I got very, very clear before and after. And after that, I was like, wow, Muslims are so under attack and so being, demonized in such a way. And I started thinking, oh my God, will I have to write like that? What if my manager says to me, oh, you have to write this article or that article, or to be accepted, you have to do this? And I got cold feet, and I thought, oh no, you know what, I can't do that. I can't do that. But then I had no idea what else to do. So obviously, ask family and this and that. And what I found, what my parents just said is, oh well, if you're good at English, just go into law. That's their dream, right? They either wanted me to be a doctor or a lawyer, so it kind of feeds in their dream. But I thought, okay, yeah, makes sense. So let's do it. It's one of them general degrees. It opens doors. Let's do it. So I did. So I did law at university. But what I found with law, the one thing I learned is that I hated it. I didn't want to be. I thought I don't want to be a lawyer. It was just boring, and I thought, law was supposed to be about justice. I thought, what, all I'm learning is just bureaucracy, and it just didn't. It wasn't what I expected it to be. I didn't really enjoy it at all. So I knew, okay, when I graduate, I definitely don't want to be a lawyer. And again, I was still that mindset. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. All I thought was that, what, I want to work for a big company. I thought big company graduate scheme. What that will do is that they put you in different seats. So you might work for 6 months in the logistics team and then 6 months in the marketing team, and then by the end you choose what area to go in. So I thought, okay, that's what I want to do. That makes sense for someone who doesn't know. Let's do something like that. So and so I applied for all these big graduate schemes. I was really fortunate, alhamdulillah, to get recruited to a big corporate that was on my doorstep. So Boots. So Boots are a big pharmaceutical company, or who obviously are a fixture on the high street. They actually Walgreens Boots Alliance, I think, chemists. So they're like, there's been a merger between Walgreens, which are a massive pharmaceutical in America, Allianz, which are a big German chemist, and anyway, they've got about 3,000 or 5,000 stores worldwide. So they're a huge, huge company. I remember that. So the day one, they made us do like a personality test, and so one of the things that came out of the personality test is I have one, alhamdulillah. No, what came out of that is that they said that, from the results, you suit being in our buying team. So that's what they did. They just put me in the buying team, and that kind of decision was made. So okay, I thought fine, great. And to be honest, it was a good role. I enjoyed it. Worked with like big brands. I was in the deodorants and shower gels kind of team. So worked with that brand like Dove and Shaw and things like that. And it was quite cool because as a buyer, you're often very, very you're in a position of authority. suppliers are always sucking up to you. They want to, you get on your good side so you can list their products, etc. So they're always sending us gifts or sending us on these excursions and experiences. So it was quite a nice kind of glamorous role. I did that for a couple of years, and then I got headhunted to go to the company called the Perfume Shop. So they're also a high street retailer, a lot smaller. At the time, they had 200 stores. I think they got about 400 now. And so they were based in a place called High Wycombe, which was just outside of London. So it was my first role outside of my home city, or first time actually going out of my home city, because even for university I stayed at home as well. So that was a good experience. And again, very glamorous role, working with big brands, Chanel and Armani and Lacoste and all these kind of big perfume brands. And again, it was very good from a development perspective because they were very ambitious. They were very keen to grow quickly, and so they gave you a lot of authority and stuff. But there was two themes that kept coming out, not just in the Perfume Shop, but even with Boots as well. In my reviews, they're all happy with my work. They say, "Look, you work really hard. Like you're doing well, but we should show some passion." The passion was always mentioned, and I never understood it because I was always, look, I don't understand what you mean by passion, because look, I turn up on time, I work hard, I do what I need to do. Like, isn't like I thought I'm quite a cool, calm, calculated, customer. As is that, what do you mean by passion? So that was the first thing, and the second thing was I was always interested in different things. I was always like, although I was a buyer, I was always interested. Okay, marketing. How does the marketing team work? And I always take a really big interest in what they're doing, or in the commercial team, or in the logistics team, or accounting. So I'll just have friends in different areas, and I'll just go and just ask questions and just be interested. I just wanted to know, and so. But again, that was another theme coming out. You don't want to be a jack of all trades, master of none. And if you really want to progress in your career, you're going to have to specialize in your field and become really well known and an expert and stuff. So at that point, I just thought, okay, fair enough. Maybe obviously, if this is a theme, if everyone keeps telling me this thing, they must be right. So I started thinking, okay, how can I specialize? So at that point, I started to think, okay, what, I've been away from home for a few years now. Maybe it's time to, maybe go back home. And so I did, and I thought I'm going to go back to university. And at this point, I actually had a few sort of gripes. The first one was that I'd started feeling guilty, I think, for or feeling the pain of not really fulfilling my potential. I thought, what? When you get into the working world and you work hard and this and that, you think, what? I didn't actually. I cruised through my law degree, my last few years of kind of college and stuff, and I could have achieved so much more, and that would have helped me in the working world, etc. So that was one thing that kept coming to my mind, and the second thing was this whole thing about specializing in something. So I thought, even though at that time I was thinking, maybe I want to do an MBA, I thought, I should specialize in something which is, and what if I did MBA? That's more generic. MBA is a Master's of Business Administration, so a lot of people do it when they want to get to big executive roles or open their own companies and stuff. But so I just thought, okay, if I do the LPC, that will make me very specialist, because I'm now a specialist in law and a solicitor or something. So why not? So yeah, so I thought, okay, and again, this is also an opportunity for me to exercise my demons of the past. Actually, I didn't enjoy law, but me going back to it now will help me to specialize, and also, if I work hard, maybe I'll be able to get good grades and prove myself wrong. And that's exactly what happened. What was amazing, I actually enjoyed it as well. So I went back, worked hard. I made the most of it as well. I did all the extracurricular activities and stayed late in the library. Did it as you're supposed to do it, and it resulted in me getting a distinction, which is one of the highest. I got one of the highest in the entire year. And so for me, it was okay, great. And finally, at the age of, how old was I, 26, 27, I know exactly what I'm going to do now. I'm going to be a lawyer, and and that's it. It's done. So I did. So this was our 2009, and so the crash had just happened. A lot of the legal jobs had been delayed or withdrawn for a lot of people because there was just no law firms. Um, everyone had been affected by it basically. So there was a massive backlog and all this kind of stuff. Um, and obviously, what that meant, the massive demand for so the massive surplus of law graduates, not enough roles, and obviously, and then one of the things that would always work against me in these interviews was, oh well, I haven't got a legal history. Everything, my roles were more commercial, whereas that versus someone who's got 4 or 5 years of legal work experience, legal profession. That was another theme. But anyway, so I got it just to, I thought, I've got a buying background, let me get back into that. And I got a role in the NHS, NHS supply chain. So this is like an arm's length body to the NHS who handle all the procurement for the NHS. So make sure that because you're buying in bulk on a national level, you can get things at a very, very discounted kind of price and stuff like that. So I did that. And to be honest, working in the public sector, it's a bit slower than I'm used to. It was boring. It was very tense, very again, very difficult. They were stretched as well because of the whole the crash and stuff as well. So I kind of again, I was just kind of I was kind of finding myself getting back into cruise control. I mean, for me, it was just temporary. What kept me going was, oh, this is temporary whilst I'm getting into legal roles, so that was fine. But what was quite interesting is that I started sort of feeling the first signs of discontent because at this point I was like 27, and I was speaking to an older friend of mine. He was really, really into personal development, and he was working for an Islamic organization and loving what he was doing, and he started talking about legacy and doing work that is for the akhirah, right? But I would say that he was the one that first planted the seed about purpose. Um, and so at that point, I was like, yeah, you know what have I done? Again, this is where the whole not feeling like I fulfill my potential kept, reverberating in the back of my mind. So I thought, you know what, so I hired him. I said, look, I want to hire you as a coach. I want you to help me, like, just achieve my potential and achieve my goals and all that kind of stuff. And alhamdulillah, so that was, so I did. So I got him involved, and that was good. He got me reading books and personal development things and taking actions, and so that was good. It sped up my development. Um, and then what happened was that this is another sort of turning point of my life. So this was now 2011, and I went to Cape Town. It was like a 2 week, for about 2 weeks, and it was a sort of retreat. So there was a group of maybe 250 people there from about 30 different countries. Actually, no, probably, yeah, 150, 200, something like that. Anyway, they were from 30 different countries. And what was really interesting about this group of people is that it was like a Islamic kind of conference type of atmosphere. No, yeah. And in this in this group, I found something that maybe that had been missing, or that just awoke something within me. Because what these people were talking about in the themes of this week was, how can Islam be used to change the world? How can Islam be used as a solution to the environmental problem, to the economic problem, to this problem, to that problem? And so all these Muslims, they're all of very good caliber, and they were just talking about Islam in a way that I've never ever heard it before. And I was like, oh my God, like what? And so for me, I was thinking about, back home, the mosques are quite, I won't say stagnant, but they're just, it never had risen something within me like this experience did. And so, yeah, so I was like, all these people are using Islam as this positive force for good. And, and what is this? Has Islam really got that kind of power? And so it just made me really interested in learning more about this stuff. And also the other thing I noticed was that all these people were all from different backgrounds. So there were some people who were very, very Sufi, and then some people who were very, very Salafi, and then some people who were like Tablighi, and there were all sorts of, but they're all like this desire to do good and to be active and add value. It just united all of them, and they were able to find a way to put their differences aside. So coming from Nottingham, I had always seen a huge sort of issue or a huge um, division in my childhood. I was on one sect, my friends were from a different sect. I would always go to school one day and then the Eid was on a different day for them, and it was just always wound me up when I was growing up. And so this was another thing that I saw, that wow, this is, when you come together to actually for the greater good, it can solve the unity problem that Islam seems to have as well. So anyway, this is the thing that I noticed, right? So I came back really like enthusiastic, and what happened was I came back and I said, you know what, I I just want to put on a conference in my local city, just showing what what we learned and stuff. And so what I did was I got four scholars, all from different backgrounds. So one was a kind of Braillevi background, one was a Deobandi background, and basically put on and the idea, the theme of the conference was again identifying issues that affect us all, right? So if I identify issues that affect us all and what we can do about it. So one scholar spoke about the money system, monetary system, and riba and how this is like enslaving us. Then one scholar talked about the food and health industry. So what we're eating and what's affecting us and this and that. And then one talked about the media and entertainment and all that kind of stuff. So it was really, really interesting. And what was interesting was that it was so I didn't really know what I was doing. I just kind of put it on, but we had massive interest. So we had I think it was 300 capacity that got sold out within 4 or 5 days, and then we had so much demand afterwards. Oh my god, like this, this is exactly what we've been looking for. Oh, we need to. When's your next event? When's your next event? And I had no intention for this to be a regular thing. It was just for me, okay, one-off thing. I've shared a little bit of and contributed, but again, that was another thing that just woke something within me that, oh wow, maybe, and this is where, I said before, I never really showed any passion. I just did what I was supposed to do. I was quite, professional. This was something I was passionate about because I then started studying and reading and about this stuff like never before. I was like, I replaced listening to music with just podcasts and talks and lectures. I was just like reading, buying all these books and then just going through them and stuff. And what interesting was that after that conference, it had ended up becoming a fully fledged organization called No, and so it became a non-profit, and that's been running ever since. So 2012 was when the conference was, and it's been running ever since. Alhamdulillah. So then so I was still kind of carrying on working in the corporate roles, and I also did a lot of dabbling in startups at this point. So just trying a few little side hustles. But what happened was that my career focus towards being a lawyer, and also even in the role I was in of like going up the ranks, because before I was quite career orientated, it kind of fizzled out a little bit. Maybe because I was getting a lot of satisfaction from the work I was doing outside of work. So No, and that was growing quite fast. So No was growing quite fast. I was getting we had sort of 15 volunteers, and we were running events, and we were doing content, and we were doing all sorts of interviewing scholars and all sorts. But what happened was that, okay, at 20, so this was around 2014, and I was about to turn 30. I was still at the NHS. I was in a role where I was managing 100 million budget. I had a big team underneath me, and my role was buying for office furniture and stationery and all that kind of stuff, which if you think about all the hospitals, buying that stuff. And because that's non-clinical spend, the pressure is all on me to find the savings, or my team to find the savings, because doctors are very much, no, I'm using this scalpel. I don't want a cheap one because I'm doing a life saving operation. But before for paper or for chairs, you can always. So we had to constantly negotiate and do tenders and this and that. It was a very, very stressful role. And it was just a very thankless role, and it burnt me out. Uh, and like I said, I hated my role, hated my life. So this is where I was starting to have this existential crisis. I was like, oh my God, like, why am I going to keep doing this forever? And so I didn't really, again, at that point, I was just like, okay, I don't really know what I want to do. All I know is that I don't want to do this anymore. Right, and what realization I came to, as you turn 30, you start reflecting on your 20s and stuff. And I started realizing, who am I? When I said that I had this existential crisis, I thought, the two things I'm known for, one is law and one is buying. So these are the two things that you can say I have been in my 20s. So law, actually, that was a decision my mom and dad made. And then buying, that was a decision that the guy at Boots made, who decided to put me in that team. So I was thinking that, up until now, I've gone where I've been steered towards. I've not actually shaped my own life at all. And maybe this is not really for me. This is not, like, even if it is, I haven't certainly decided these things. So I was just like, I need to do something about it. So I just went on a holiday to Portugal, and I was trying to, figure it all out. I started, like, I remember the first couple of days, I was just blank. Nothing was coming. And then I went out going for like long walks in nature. I remember sitting at a waterfall for hours. I was just like and then I came back and I just had a moment of clarity. And I started writing like frantically about myself, just getting to know myself. Okay, what am I good at? What can I do? What's the option? I came back. I said, you know what? I'm gonna quit. I don't know what I want to do yet, but all I know is I don't want to do this. And I've got a 3 month notice period, so I would figure it out. So I came back and I just gave my notice in, and obviously I didn't tell my mom and dad, but it was just like for the first time I felt like, oh my God, I've actually made a decision for myself. And obviously it was a bit scary, but it felt like the right thing to do. Alhamdulillah. And then since then, I've just been on this entrepreneurship journey. So what was amazing is that, okay, I didn't know what to do, but then within a month or so, I came across this course on Amazon. I was selling on Amazon FBA, and I thought, and that sounded right up my street because my background's all buying and creating products and stuff like that. So I thought, oh my God, this is perfect for me. So that's what I did. So I did Amazon, I did products on books on Kindle. So again, writing summaries of famous books, putting them on Kindle. That's kind of selling passively. I created a smart tech product using crowdfunding. Had a marketing agency. I was doing copywriting, like freelancing for people. I had a business consultancy. We would go in and do workshops and help people with branding and stuff. And then I also had a lot of failures, a lot of shockers. So I had this gift box subscription thing that I was, again, partnered with someone, wasn't really that interested in it. And, I did this shocking thing where my brother had a taxi firm. So I was like, oh, you know what, maybe you can, instead of just taking customers, you can take cakes as well. Because that was the time that Great British Bake Off was quite big. And I saw online somewhere that no one takes... no, like DHL and all these companies don't take cakes because they're perishable. So I thought, if you can solve a problem. It's like, you could say, a Deliveroo for cakes, basically. Then obviously I was one of the drivers. I kind of was doing this thing, and I realized why people don't take cakes. We had this wedding cake we had to deliver, and it was on my lap, and it was a hot day. It all just melted in the car, all over everything. So we had some like shocking things with that. So anyway, but the point of it is that you have to try things. I also partnered with a French brother to do something with the French market. I partnered with a guy who's an expert in the rail sector to do something with it was just all sorts of, like, basically very scattergun it was, but there was a few success stories that came out of it. So this is just the background. So that's me as a kid, then graduating, Boots, perfume shop, law school, joining the NHS. Then this was South Africa. And the no launch, and these are some of the startups that I kind of dabbled in. This was like a gifting tech thing. This actually still is still running. This is a Range Rover aftermarket uh, lamp company. So it would be me and my friend, but I realised I couldn't work with him, so we just parted ways. He's still running it, alhamdulillah. And then this was the Kindle thing, again, still running. Haven't checked it for years, but it's still sending money every month. And then this was the bulk of the early years in entrepreneurship, where we were doing Amazon, did lots of different products, drones and hair products and cotton wool and all sorts of random things. A jump starter. So alhamdulillah, that was very, very good. This was the friend that I turned to as to be my coach back in 2010, and he was actually now on the similar journey as me. So we actually ended up partnering up, and he's still my business partner to this day. So we actually got investment early on at working together, and then that allowed us to create more products and stuff. Then this is the product that I launched, the tech product, which was did via crowdfunding. They got funded on day one, and then that then started selling in America in retail in places like Walmart and Wayfair and things like that. And then created a whole brand called Life Home that had like lots of different lamps, and basically it's all about smart home and stuff. So and then from that we partnered with another brother called Amin, and then we launched a marketing agency, because one thing we realized is creating products is the easy part, but actually selling them are hard. So and so when we went to other marketing agencies to try and sell our products, they kind of struggled with it. But obviously when you got skin in the game, you kind of do a lot of studying. You kind of try and figure all this stuff out for yourself, and we realized we're getting good results for ourselves. Other people started asking us questions. Got to the point where actually, they started asking questions to such an extent. We said, oh, you know what? They'll say, oh, we'll pay you for it. We'll pay you for it. And eventually, that became a fully fledged agency. We had like 10 staff at one point. And that was, again, very, very good, very lucrative. It just so time consuming, and so it just burnt us out in time, amount of work required. So then that took us to, so at the same time, so No was always in the background. So I was always doing No as my passion project, and then the entrepreneurship stuff was the kind of the money maker, you could say. So then at that time, No went through a bit of a change, where I'm going to go through that in a second, where I created rebranded it, and instead of it being this event, we were doing events once a month, and no, once a year, sorry, and doing more problem centric type of content, which was, oh look, the end times are here, this is going on, that's going on, urgency, doom and gloom. Instead of being that, became more education focused, and we created this edtech platform from scratch. So that was like a really, really cool project. In 2019, Life Digital, actually, the marketing agency, pivoted to Muslim CEO, which was a way of us, instead of us doing the marketing for you, we will teach you how a marketing agency does marketing. That was the essential idea. So it became a training company where we were teaching Muslims how to do proper professional marketing, because that was one gap we realized that there was out there. So No, in 2019, sort of, not, it didn't pivot, but it kind of, one of the problems with having a tech platform is that you need funding, and funding was, in the absence of getting funding, we said, okay, you know what, we need to get content. We need to create content that gets people to our site, and so we had this series called the Second Golden Age. Again, more about that later. 2021, we launched a new program called Rich with Impact, which is helping Muslims to set up in business. So instead of us helping established businesses with their marketing, we said that there needs to be something out there for people who are at entry level. And so we launched this Rich with Impact program at Muslim CEO, and that's our kind of main focus now. Alhamdulillah. And then also that year, I did a pilot version of this program that you guys are now on, and that was the beginning of the next stage for me, alhamdulillah. So let's begin with the end in mind. So my overall vision. So I just want you to know, like, my vision and why I'm doing what I'm doing now. What's my purpose, etc. So my vision in life is to see a world experiencing a second golden age where Muslims are leading the way in intellect, innovation, and impact. So this is relevant because as you'll get to know, why is very important. So this one statement is what drives me. And the vehicle I'm predominantly using to realize this vision is no. So let me tell you a bit more about no. Right, we've evolved considerably over the years. Now, what's the problem? The problem that as Muslims, the Ummah is not producing enough thinkers. So we're extremely disunited, we're distracted, we lack vision. And what we've also done is, sadly, we've taken God out of the equation. So we are educated today, but it's in a very secular way. We've separated the spiritual from our everyday life, especially our education. So how do you solve a problem like this? Obviously, you have to win hearts and minds, provide a feel-good vision to rally around, and you have to solve a real problem, right? And a second golden age is one where people are fulfilling their potential. Actually, what I'll do is I'll take you through some of the components. So this is some of the backstory. So in 2012, as I mentioned, this is where we had our first event that sold out, called Clarity About Reality. Then in 2013 to 2015, obviously we had years of really good growth, really good following online, very focused on a micro niche target market, understanding the world and providing solutions through the lens of end times eschatology. So we had a lot of kind of that was kind of the area of focus. The idea being that if we can show that, oh, look, we need to show urgency, that will get people united and working towards a common goal. 2016 we pivoted and we rebuilt the organization and rebranded it to an edtech platform. The idea to make a bespoke two-sided course and content marketplace where every Muslim could share what they know with others in a bite-sized, digestible way. Our belief is that everyone's got something to learn, everyone's got something to teach. So that was the next sort of phase of no. And then from 2019 to now, finding funding was to grow. Platform was difficult, so we led and channeled our growth efforts towards content and media. So we created something called the Second Golden Age, which is aimed at reviving the spirit of the First Golden Age and inspiring and educating a new generation of thought and ideas. Right, so this is our vision, as I mentioned, a world experiences the Second Golden Age of Islam, where Muslims are leading the way in intellect, innovation, and impact. And the mission, which is the how to do it, is to champion an insatiable love for lifelong learning amongst Muslims, to create critical thinkers and purposeful pioneers who can lead and impact the world, inshallah. So one thing that we're inspired by is that if the end times comes and you're planting a seed, carry on planting. So what that means is that, you might think, oh, well, that's such an ambitious vision, that's not even possible. But and the times that we're in so bleak, and you're talking about this golden age, it's so far apart. But with this hadith, we must continue to do good work even if tomorrow is not promised, and you're also rewarded according to your intention. So why not have the biggest intention? So with that in mind, so let's talk practically then. How do you even get to this golden age, right? So the first thing is look at modeling someone. So Ray Dalio, who's this big hedge fund manager who wrote a really good book called Principles. He recently wrote a book called The Changing World Order. In that, he studied 5 or 6 different empires in different ages. And he realized that there's multiple factors that leads to the rise and the fall of that empire, economically, educationally, etc. And so these were the 8 factors. And what he as you can see, at 0 is where the empire is at its peak. That's where it's at its golden age. And what he identified is that the first thing that goes up is education. Once the education goes up, the innovation and technology goes up, then the economy goes up, etc., etc. So with that in mind, we need to focus on education, right? So, and then the second thing is, okay, so let's say you want to focus on education. How do you change the status quo? Because it's immovable. The current education system has been in place for years and years and years. And how do you do it? So there's 2 ways to topple a tyrannical status quo. You either can do it top down or bottom up. So top down is where you have an Imran Khan type figure, where it's done at leadership level. He comes in and he says, right, root and branch reform, this is what we're going to do now, etc., etc., etc. And he's got the force and the might and the army and everything to kind of put it in place. I mean, obviously he's not in place anymore, but that's in theory how a top-down effort would work. But that's very unlikely given the state of the Ummah and stuff. So the alternative is to do it bottom up, where you can develop enough people who are of caliber that there's a tipping point and it leads to societal change. So the idea is like to put in place a growth and development process to transform enough people to become of caliber, of the right caliber, and that then lead to a golden age. And so this is the ayat of the Quran that the company know is kind of centered on. Are those who know equal to those who don't know? So Allah makes a very clear distinction. There's people who know and there's people who don't know, and there's a huge difference between the two. So this is our objective. Our objective is to create more people who know. So there's a plenty of people who are in this stage, not knowing, and we want to take them to this stage where they're knowing. So that's what we do. We take someone who does not know to become one who knows. So how do you define that? What is someone who knows? So someone who understands the world, they're in harmony with the fitrah, they're active, not passive, they're curious and love learning, they champion truth, they speak for justice, they act with wisdom, and they're able to express themselves whilst living by their purpose and having an impact on the world. So again, that doesn't mean that we're trying to create scholars or anything like that. No. It means we're creating people of caliber, people who know. Like Muhammad Ali, he wasn't a scholar, but was he someone who understood the world? Yes. As you know, harmony with Fitra? Yes. Was he active? Yes, he was. Did he love learning and growing? Yes, he did. He championed truth. He spoke for justice. He didn't go to the army and all. He acted with wisdom and he was able, very articulate, he was able to express himself. And he lived by his purpose as well. And he had a huge impact. He was considered one of the, I think the best sportsman of the 20th century, etc. So again, that's what we're trying to create, people of that kind of caliber, because those people of caliber, that led to the first golden age, and so we need to create, more of the same, inshallah. Now, this is another thing that inspires us hugely. The Prophet ﷺ once said, "My ummah is like the rain. I do not know which shower is best, the first or the last." So what that means is that the golden age, another golden age, is something that's actually prophesized. Something that will definitely materialize as long as we set the ball in motion and work towards it. So this provides us with hope, certainty, with a powerful vision. Just as the Sahaba and our pious predecessors achieved great things, there will become a time where the Ummah produces a shower comparable to those formidable leaders and pious pioneers of the past, inshallah. That means that this is a prophecy, not a pipe dream. So if it's destined to happen, why shouldn't we be the ones to make effort towards it? And the Prophet also said, "My companions are like the stars. Whichever of them you follow, you will be guided right." So we know that the caliber of the first reign, the Sahaba, was amazing, and they are the ones who changed society. So that's who we need to look to, so we can reverse engineer and model them. Because success leaves clues. What was the secret to their transformation? So undoubtedly, the biggest difference was the revelation of the Quran. The Quran transformed them from backwards Bedouins to people who changed the world. So we need to start looking at things through a Quranic lens, first and foremost. So this is how we reversed engineered greatness. When you study the Sahaba, you look at there's three transformations that they went through. The first one was vision. This was at the time of revelation. So the Quran was first revealed, and this what happened was that it gave a group of people who had no history, they had no precedent of greatness. It finally gave them hope, inspiration, belief, and a grand vision to aim towards. So now it was clear that they were the chosen people, which got them believing in new possibilities. Faith was born. So that was the first transformation, because before they had no hope, no clue. Now, okay, we're the chosen people. Oh my God, there's a new destiny for us. They were able to believe a vision. Then we had the Makkah stage. So this is where they were unlearning and relearning. So once they had vision, the long and arduous process of developing great people started, with the 13 years of Makkah focusing on understanding core fundamentals, their purpose, and getting rid of their previous false beliefs, all the while in a hostile land to build their resilience. So if you look at that stage in Makkah, they were just building fundamentals, understanding their core purpose, understanding the basic fundamentals, as well as getting rid of the Jahiliyyah. Okay, can't drink, can't do this, can't do that. All the while in a hostile land. So obviously, again, they were constantly in difficulty and stuff like that, but that was building them up. And then once they did make the Hijrah, the next phase, or the next transformation happened, where it was implementation impact. So now the foundation had been built, they were ready to go on to the next phase, where they were not minorities, but where they could exert their influence in a friendly environment. So this is where innovation, impact, social order, and structure thrived, as they were able to implement Allah's laws fully and holistically. So what does this mean? This is the roadmap towards the second golden age, inshallah. So we had vision, where the Quran was revealed, the 13 years of Makkah and 10 years of Medina. So what does that mean? Vision and faith. So having faith, belief, vision, direction, beginning with the end in mind. That's the first stage. Then unlearning and relearn. There's the state of purpose. So knowing why, setting your core principles, setting your foundations. Then unlearning, removing your faulty programming and getting back to fitrah. And then you have resilience, handling huge difficulty and struggle with sabr and shukr. Because again, when you're trying to change and trying to transform, there's going to be massive resistance along the way. So you need to be able to handle that. So that's the breaking down the Makkah stage, and then in Medina, a lifelong learning. So this is expanding on principles and ongoing development. So now they're ready for more, because now they're in a stable environment. So now how can we build upon the fundamentals? Okay, now you need to understand this level of ritual and that ritual, and etc., etc. And service and impact, using your transformation for good and living your purpose. So again, now everyone is in place, and everyone is, how can you now add value and grow the society, etc. And all of that is underpinned by a Quranic worldview, as opposed to a Western one. Now, and so where we are and where you are is at this stage, this Makkah stage, and in the purpose stage. In this phase, in this program, we'll be going through a lot of these things. Purpose, we'll go through unlearning and resilience as well. But I just want you to have the big picture in mind of what we're like, this journey. Because inshallah, you are one of the first remnants or the offshoots toward building that second golden age, inshallah. Okay, so the power of why. When Al-Khwarizmi wrote his Kitab al-Jabr, the beginnings of modern algebra, contrary to popular belief, he was not laying the foundations of speculative mathematics randomly, but he was working out the laws of inheritance, a subject so vast that it's been called half of knowledge. So knowing why you're doing something is extremely important, as it activates the brain and ensures you are motivated and driven enough to navigate through the inevitable challenges to get to the end destination. Long term, not only did Al-Khwarizmi achieve amazing things and discover algebra and algorithms, by his understanding inheritance laws, it solved a very local problem, which led to wealth being spread more evenly in the community. So what this means essentially is that we know that he's amazing, he invented algorithms and algebra, and that's why a lot of what the modern world runs on, right? But his why, it wasn't, oh yeah, I'm going to change the world. No, it was, I want to solve the inheritance issues that my local community are having. That was actually his why. That's why he was doing it, and as a result of that, so it led him to greater things. So that's the importance of why. So you knowing your why is important. Only the wise know their whys. Sheikh Hamza Yusuf said that. So if you keep asking why, it eventually leads back to God. If you think about a child, he keeps asking why. But if you ask why enough, eventually the answer will be, because God did it, or because God said so. So this is inbuilt into our fitrah. I think about the child is a question they're constantly asking. So asking why, it leads you to knowing. So how do you know your why? You have to go deep and extract it. Keep digging until you can dig no more. One technique that they have is the 5 why technique, where if you said, okay, why do you want to do this? Okay, but when you answer for the first time, then ask why again. And then ask why again. Then ask why, until you got to the stage where you don't want, then you're at your very root. You extracted it from deep within. The why is your fuel for the tough road ahead. People lose their way when they lose their why. A lot of companies who might have started out, really, really well, they kind of wobble because some new leaderships come in and they've taken them off and they forget their roots. And even when I look at No, and the reason why in 2016 we pivoted and moved toward was because we had kind of lost our way as well. We were doing things for the wrong reasons, and I realized that we need to get back to why do we exist, what we're doing. That's where the whole education thing kind of came from. So for me, the themes that have constantly prevailed in my life, as you've seen now, are centered around unity. So from a child to South Africa to you know fulfilling my potential. So again, the pain of the past, and then redeeming it, and then wanting to get better and better and better constantly. Knowing myself. So again, only when I started knowing myself and learning, studying myself, have things got better for me. And then writing has been another constant theme. So I realized obviously what I'm most passionate about, the things that made me come alive, and that thing, what this that is self-actualization. That actually is the one thing I would say that now kind of defines me. So purpose is a necessary component towards self-actualization. So you've probably heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is for you the ultimate level of it is self-actualization. Obviously, we can't get self-actualization if you don't have your physiological needs met, and then your safety and security needs are met, and then your love and belonging needs are met, and then your esteem and confidence needs are met. So once your basic needs are all met, really achieving one's full potential is the peak of it, and that's really what I'm all about. And so you might think, where does Muslim CEO? I've constantly talked about no. Where does Muslim CEO come in? So what I found through all this work in Muslims, etc., is that there's two things that prevent Muslims on taking action on the real thing that matter. So I've probably spoken to probably 3, 4, 500 Muslims about this subject, and what they all say, I would love to open a charity. Oh, I'd love to do this. I want to do this. They all, at the very heart of it, want to do great work. But what prevents them? Time. Oh, I ain't got time. Or money. So Muslim CEO, why that exists, is aimed at making them rich with impact. So that is rich. That is financially rich or income rich. It's time rich and akhirah rich. That's how we built the program, so it can free you up from your day-to-day role and actually get you then doing purposeful work and doing what you need to do or what you want to do and having impact on people. That's essentially what the program teaches. So that's where these two things kind of come in. And obviously I do that with my business partner, Amin and Mohammed. They're very passionate about this kind of subject as well. So we kind of partnered with this thing. So again, these things work hand in hand. Sometimes people need to free themselves first, and sometimes they need to be purpose-led. So here's what we covered. We covered who is Faisal Amjad, my own purpose story, beginning the end in mind, and the power of why. So hopefully everything now kind of makes sense. You understand my whole journey and why I'm doing this and where the big picture is. Why this exists. So the action items is there's a worksheet which is called the why worksheet. So I want you to fill that in, use it to get motivated and deeply committed, and attached to seeing this journey through to the end. And also write down why you want to know your purpose. So go 3 to 5 whys deep and get passionate. And I'll leave you with this. Working hard for something we don't care about is called stress, but working hard for something we love is called passion. That's by Simon Sinek, who wrote the book Start With Why. So that's it for this one. Inshallah, I'll see you on the next one, which is actually the start of the program.